Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Visual Studio Toolbox. I'm your host, Leslie Richardson, and I am joined by a guy who needs no introduction, but joined by Mads Kristensen. He's not a stranger to this show, but it's certainly been a minute. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back. Shoot, so what are you up to these days?
Well, as usual, I'm working on Visual Studio features and with the community and conferences and all sorts of things that involve the users of Visual Studio. And it's exciting. And today, though, I want to show some cool extensions that I think a lot of your viewers here on the toolbox are gonna enjoy it because they're like kind of general things that make your development experience easier. They're going to make you happier in Visual Studio. At least they do for me. So I think they might make other people happy too. So that was my plan. That was my hope.
Sounds like I'm going to be happy too. Oh, yeah. I like
Yep.
it. I'm excited. Based off of some of the ones you teased a little bit earlier, I was like, shoot, I might need to download all these extensions too. So yeah, for those who don't know, Mads is kind of the expert on all things Visual Studio extensions. He's written a bunch, he uses a bunch, and he talks about them a bunch. So we're going to talk about some cool ones that I'm going to take his word for because he's an extension expert. So
Well, and it's been a while since I've talked about some of
right,
these. So I'm actually going to bring some forward that are not necessarily new, but they're evergreen in the sense that, they keep being good year after year,
you're
no
timeless.
matter what we're working on. So
I like it. Well, plus, I like repetition. It helps me remember things. Remember to
yes,
download things.
exactly. But I'm sure there's something here that you don't know about, and I wanna just say, like, some people, they're thinking, "Hey, extensions, they make Visual Studio slower, they're making it unstable, they make Visual Studio crash or something." And while that can be true, it's more like a theoretical, like, it's not actual truth. The things I'm gonna show you here does not do any of that. They don't actually even activate. They don't do anything unless you push, the button that they provide, for instance. They don't actually load into Visual Studio, so there's no startup, hit, there's no slowdown, there's none of that stuff, with these extensions, so they're absolutely safe to use and, a pure joy, with no negative downsides.
I like it.
Mhm.
No negative downsides is always
Yeah,
a
exactly.
delight. So
So, Leslie, you can see here, like, this is typical what happens, right? When I want to present something in Visual Studio, it could be if I'm in a Teams meeting and I want to show something, or I'm doing you know, like a live share. My font sizes here are not very good for presenting, right? So I can, of course, if I have a
well,
mouse, I can
I
hold down the
probably
control
would have
key.
yelled at you beforehand.
Yeah, right. So I can zoom in here. That's kind of nice, right? So just hold down the control key and then go mouse scroll forward and back. Okay, so that's nice. But that's built into Visual Studio. What I really like to do is being able to really quickly go back to 100% control 0. So I use a keyboard, sorry, an extension called Reset Zoom. That's all it's called, Reset Zoom, and all it does is that it gives you control 0, brings the zoom level back to 100% by default, but you can set whatever your default should be. Maybe it's 110% that's your default. So that's just really nice. And we can zoom in here. Let's just leave it here at 161% because that's such a great number. But it's not just the editor, right? It's also things of like the Solution Explorer. This is really small fonts here. It's hard to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an extension called Font Sizer 2.0. Font Sizer 2.0. I will say that this was actually it was written by, another person that then I think left the Visual Studio space or whatever, and I took over the code and released it in a new version for newer versions of Visual Studio. So I cannot take credit for this, even though I published it in my name, for the latest version of Visual Studio, to keep this fantastic project alive. But it allows me to do exactly that, increase and decrease the font size of the environment. So I hit Control Shift, and then if you have a numpad, I can do plus and minus, and I can, see here,
Mm.
make it nice and large fonts, so it makes it really easy to see. And so now we're getting closer, right? This is pretty good. This is good for presenting. There's one more thing that I do here, and that is something called Shortcut Presenter. So it's a little tool window. I have a dock right down here. And I hit the play button. You can hit play and pause, and it's always on. Like when you have this tool window open, it's running. I manually hit pause to pause it. But what happens is that when I'm using it, let's do this here again. It records and shows the keyboard shortcuts I'm using. So when I'm presenting, it can be hard for the audience sometimes to figure out, well, what did he just do? Right? What keyboard shortcut did he
Right.
press? Shows it. So that's really, really nice. So let's open a file and it
I
shows
love
that
this.
whole open file, right? Super simple. So you have that down here. You got some settings, but it's just a really nice thing. I actually have this on all the time because I do a lot of recordings and I do a lot of presenting. So
Right.
small little window, nice to have down there.
Yeah, this first batch that you just shared, so it was reset zoom, shortcut presenter,
Mhm.
and, what was the one that just lets you bump up the font
It's
across
called
VS Code?
font sizer.
Those are great as a fellow presenter. Massive time saver, and then just easy reset after the fact too. It's just, like, very presenter friendly.
It's that reset that's I find that so important. Get back to where you were because
Yeah.
that's hard to remember. What was my font size or whatever, you know? So
So I don't remember.
okay, so
It's
now I'm set up. Now I'm ready to present. And the first, which is the fourth extension I want to demo today, is my latest kind of favorite extension, and it's called File Explorer. And what it does is that in my solution explorer here at the very top, it adds a node into my tree view, and that is the node it's basically File Explorer. Take Windows File Explorer and put it inside Visual Studio because I have a lot of files that's in my repo. Could be README file, could be GitHub workflow files, could be anything. Git ignore files. They're not part of my solution, so they don't show up in my regular Solution Explorer. But with File Explorer, I get to see all of it right here. And of course, I can open it, I can browse through it. What's really cool about this is it doesn't actually load any child nodes. So it's super fast because it only loads what you see. So it doesn't know what's inside of workflows until I open it. In this case, workflow folder. Okay. And so I have my GitHub files here, my README file, all that stuff is right here and very, very convenient. I'm a big fan of this. It lets me get to those files that I sometimes would put into solution folders, like if you've manually done that before. But the unfortunate part about solution folders is it doesn't map to the file system. So I can't say, hey, add this particular
Mm,
folder to my file system. So what's really cool here is that
right.
I can add any folder I want, like physical folder on file, to my solution. So here I have class library. That's just the default one. But I could go up, right click the solution, go down to add, and say add existing folder. So that's new. That's part of this extension. Add existing folder. And um, let's do another project of mine here. Let's do this one, Console Lab 1. And it adds it right here. So if you're dealing with let's say you have a site that has documentation and just pure markdown files and like a folder, but it's not part of a Visual Studio project or solution, you can still include it into your solution and access it really easily. As many as you want, right? Or if you have sub modules in Git or whatever it might be that allows you to drag in or orchestrate your workspace from multiple folders on disk, then this comes in handy like big time. You
Yeah,
can remove them again, of course. You can right click and say, hey, open this in File Explorer, open it in VS Code. That's kind of nice, right? Sometimes there are files
that's
that we
nice too,
work
yeah.
on that's just better to work on in Visual Studio Code. And so having that easy way
Yep,
to just
I was
click
just
that.
doing that the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
That is really
Uh,
nice. Yeah, mhm.
you can open it in the terminal.
Oh, I like opening terminal.
Yeah. So now you just gets it right here to that file path, right? So that's kind of handy. So this is the
Mhm.
Windows terminal. So very cool. And you can just enable it or disable it with this button up here on the toolbar, toggle it on and off.
Perfect.
That's it, and it stores it, so next time you open this solution, you'll have whatever folder configuration that you added here that will be back, but otherwise, it won't touch your there's no artifacts in your solution for this, you don't have to check it in, um,
Mm,
so, yeah, it's a clean, nice little thing to do. So that was
I like the clean
File
stuff.
Explorer. Yeah.
I think that that is very handy. Just file management in and of itself is already kind of a task, especially when file management is working against you sometimes for
Yeah.
whatever reason, especially like while debugging. So, any opportunity to streamline that behavior or customize it in a way that you want and you know where things are going, and it's is always helpful, I think.
Yeah, and you don't have to switch between, solution view, right?
Yeah, oh gosh.
Class view and folder
Yep.
view and all that, because that's not really necessarily what you want. You wanna have best of both worlds.
Mhm. Exactly.
So you wanna have the solution, but you also wanna see the files. So this is actually one that we're working on right now to see how can we move that into Visual Studio? How do we do that in a way that is optimal? But you can get this already now,
Mhm.
File Explorer for free on the marketplace for Visual Studio 2022.
Are all
Right.
these extensions free that you're showing so far?
Yep, they're all free. Yep, they're all, Apache licensed even, so you can clone them, you can modify them, you can publish them under your own name, whatever you wanna do, yeah. And now we're here, and now I have access to my README file, right, because it was right here. I opened it, and what I like to do is, though, even though Visual Studio has a built-in Markdown editor, I really prefer this, extension called Markdown Editor V2. Now, the important part here is the
Mm.
V2, the title. It has to have that V2 in there. And then you get kind of the latest and greatest. And it's an absolute joy to use. You can see you get a preview here. You get so many features. I'm not going to go into all of them, but drag and drop of things like images and that type of stuff is really good. But it makes sense.
Yep.
So let's just write something. So something, hit enter, and you get Copilot completions, but you also automatically, when you hit enter in a list, it produces the next bullet point and so on. So it feels like Word. It feels like you're editing like in a regular text editor meant for like not code, but a text editor. And it's just really, really good. And the preview here on the right hand side updates immediately. It supports mermaid diagrams. It supports all sorts of things. So it's like
Yep.
if you're ever dealing with anything Markdown, you need the Markdown Editor
This is the one.
V2. It's gonna make you,
Yeah.
a lot happier.
I can plus one this one. I actually do use this extension, so
Mhm.
very exciting to see it get more love.
Yes, yes, exactly. And we use it internally actually as part of, let's say as part of the, when we do our release notes and what's new inside Visual Studio and all that, we
Yeah.
actually use this Markdown Editor to, author all those Markdown files. So here's another one we use also for that. Um for when we do release notes. Our release notes are their website. And so, websites tend to sometimes get pretty huge, right? And so when you download it on your phone or your device or whatever, it can take a while to download all the artifacts. And one of the biggest artifacts that we have on the web are images. And so images can be huge, right? They can take up megabytes easily, easily.
Mhm.
And we always want to make sure that our images are not they're as small as they can be. I'm not talking about dimensions, like height and width, but like that they're as optimized so they're not full of things that like extra pixels or whatever that you don't need, extra color palettes and all sorts of information that the human eye don't see anyway. So we can trim them down, and that's kind of hard to do. But I'm gonna just show here the output window. I'm going to show you an extension here that we've had with us for like quite a while, probably around 10 years, and it keeps getting better and keeps getting updated. But it allows me to right click any image or folder. I'm just going to click a folder here and go down to image optimizer, and I can say optimize for best quality
Ooh.
or optimize for best compression. So if I hit optimize for best quality, it will go through and take all the images and it will optimize them for when without you can tell any difference in quality. And you can see here, it just did that really quick. Some of them were already optimized.
Mhm.
Let's see here, I was able to shave off 18% of that picture, 19 of this, 50% of this picture down here, and 50% of the next one, right? So I just saved 200 kilobytes. And I actually use this. I write extensions for Visual Studio the most, but I still use this because I want the thing that people download from the marketplace. I want it to be as small as possible. Like it's a way to show respect to our
Sure.
users. There's still parts of the world where you pay per megabyte or gigabyte or whatever, and so we want to respect that and make sure our
Mhm.
payload is as small as possible. It's just a decent thing
That's a
to
good
do.
point. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
I agree. I'm glad you brought that up too, because yeah, some extensions can take like you realize it's like, why am I having massive slowdown all of a sudden on VS or my machine? And then you look it up and it's like, wow, this extension is taking up so much space for what seems like a basic
Yeah, and
functionality. So
with images, it's I think it's over like is it 70% or something of a website is images, like of the weight. Nowadays,
yeah.
with all the JavaScript frameworks and all
Mhm.
that, it might be a little bit less, but it used to be like the vast majority of the size of a website was images. So making sure we do this is really important. And if we're dealing with images that are very
Yeah.
simple, like vector graphics or something like that, then
Mhm.
we can do what we can optimize here for best compression, where it's like, okay, we're able to compress a little harder. It's not like a logo or something like marketing material, so we can really try to squeeze more out of it. And then we get additional 66% on some of these images here. And this time we were able to save an additional 400 kilobytes, right? First time around without any visible difference, 200 kilobytes off. And now you still probably won't be able to tell by, looking at the image that it was compressed even more. But we were able to shave 400 kilobytes off. Super important and very, very powerful to do. The latest feature that this extension has is that you can right click any file, any image file, and then you can resize the image. So it'll give you a nice
Oh my
little
God.
resizer. Oh, you know what? This was like so huge. I just wanted a little bit smaller, right? So you can just resize it like that.
Yeah.
So now it's small. Because we want to make sure if you have a website and you use a big picture, but or big photo or something like that, but the place you're showing it is like 200 by 200. You don't want to make sure your image is not larger than that, right? And so we can
Right.
make it really easy using this extension to just be a little bit more conscious about our image sizes, I guess. So that was the image optimizer.
That is awesome. I like having the ability to resize images, especially within VS, because sometimes when it's not fitting the certain size, it's so annoying having to go back. So, like, whatever image editor you're using, and then go resize it, and then go check that it's working in the markdown that you added it to, or wherever you're adding your image. Yeah, just tedious. So, save some time.
Totally agreeing with you, and that's why I use this all the time. Every single project I have, I use this. Anytime I have an image, this is being used. I'm just gonna keep on going. Uh,
Yeah,
I
keep
saw in
going.
here in this project, I have a SQL file. You know what?
Yeah,
You know what Visual Studio is not doesn't have built in is a way to
SQL
format
stuff.
SQL statements. Yeah, it never had that, and so there's an extension for that called something as creative as SQL Formatter. SQL Formatter. And this allows me to make a
Very
selection
fire.
and then at the very bottom, Control K, Control Q, and ooh, exactly. And that's right. We have a nice formatting here. If you have any SQL in your project, you're probably going to like this extension. And a lot of people do have SQL in their project. So
Yeah.
actually, also, a lot of people have SQL, but they're not in their project. They have them like stored procedures or something in a folder somewhere. But guess what? You can now take that folder and you can include it using the File Explorer into your solution. And you can open them in
Yeah.
Visual Studio and you can now format them. And it's all very, very easy. Um,
Sweet. I'm
you
liking
can, you,
all these
you can
extensions working together.
exactly. So Control KQ and it will format everything here. Um, like the whole file. Or if I just add a selection, it'll just only format that selection. So Control KQ. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Big fan of that one. Oh, I want to say for SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS 21, which is the current released version. Actually, so you can't install extensions directly into that, but there is a way to do it. And you can find that online. Google it and figure it out. It's not hard, but it's also not simple necessarily. But this extension, the SQL formatter, will be able to then run inside SSMS 21 today. So you can get
Mm,
that both in Visual Studio and in SSMS from that same code base. Cool. I got two left, and these are kind of small, but I
all
really
right.
enjoy them. So let's say I have an error here, right? I don't have the error list visible, and if I go in and I open a large file, like, how do I tell if I have an error in this file somewhere, right? It's not necessarily because it could be scrolled out of view where the squiggly is, where the red squiggly.
Mhm.
Right now, it's right here in the top, so I can see it, but that's not always the case, of course. And we used to have down in the bottom, we actually used to have these indicators that said how many errors you would have, how many warnings, and how many messages. And you'll see I don't have that
Right.
down here because what I did was I installed an extension called Editor Info, and that gives me a little extra down here at the bottom. So it shows me the selection, how many characters the selection is. If I have more than one
Mhm.
selection, oh, oh, here we go. You see now I have 13 selections. I can see how long they are. This is box selection right now. Let's see here. This is multi-cursor. So now I have 3 selections, and you can see that shows up here. I can very easily tell what I'm doing in the editor. So I use that all the time. I can also see what encoding this is. I can even click that and change the encoding to something else. So
That's
that
very nice. Yeah. Usually that requires multiple clicks last time I checked to change your encoding.
oh yeah, you have to go up here and say save. You have to say save
Yeah.
as, and then you have to go down here and say save with encoding. Are you sure you wanna replace it with different, and then you can choose an encoding, and I'm gonna back out of this, but
Right.
yeah, so it's not easy, right? And it doesn't tell you what it is. So now you can just
Right.
change it right here. And the last one is you can see the, let me put the cursor on the class name here. The last name gives you some information. If you really wanna geek out and see what's going on, you can see how long the document is, how many lines, what the underlying language name is, like the content type is what it's called, and some classifications. You can see if you wanna change the name of the or sorry, the font and color of the class name in C sharp, you can go down and hover over that thing that I'm hovering over, and at the very bottom, it says classification and then class name. So now you know, oh, it's called class name. I can go into my tools options, and
Oh, I
there
see what the
fonts, right? And you can find somewhere in here, there's a class
the
name.
giant list of items. Yep.
Yes.
That
And
is
so that's
wonderful.
kind of neat if you want to
Oh,
play around with your color theme and all that. So that's called
I love
editor.
that so much.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
editor info. That's really cool. Yeah, because like as much as I again have to adjust my code or maybe I or my font or maybe just want to play around with the customization of my editor color wise and stuff. It's really annoying having to play the trial and error game you usually have to do with that long list of display items and not everything has a distinct clear name as to what it's referring to. So it's frustrating. So
Exactly.
that's great that it's basically like a labeler attached.
And so this is an extension
Right.
that we're also looking at building in, but we're kind of playing around with ideas of how to do it. But you can get it now. It's right here. And you remember I was talking about errors, and then I kind of got away from it for some reason. I started talking about the selection and all that. But the error that I have here, I don't have those things showing up in the margin that shows me how many errors I got. The error list is hidden. So now instead, look over here on top of the scroll bar. I have an arrow icon, and if I hover it, it'll tell me, "Hey, I have
Mhm.
1 error and 1 warning." If I click it, it jumps between, like, from one to the next, from one to the next, and back and forth, right? So just go. So I can quickly jump from each error to or a warning to the next. And I can fix it, and then it goes away, and you can see now it changes to a warning icon up here because now I only have a warning.
Mhm.
So very quickly, when I open a file, I can just look at the top here, and it will either be green. Let's see if I can figure out how to make this. Let's see if I can figure out how to make this. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. I just wanna here we go, show you the green. Now up here, you can see it's green.
Right. Like it's
Yeah.
good to go.
So it's a very nice visual
Great.
indicator. You open a file and you
Mhm.
immediately can see here, oh, it's green, it's yellow, it's red, right? And so small little thing, but it allows us to remove some noise down here at the bottom margin next to the scroll bar. You can see how wide my scroll bar is. It goes the whole
Mhm.
way now. So even at a small screen resolution or something, I'm not pushed for space here, and yeah, so it has a lot of benefits, not just that visual indicator, and I really like this. I use it. I just have it. I've had it for a while, and this is called Document Health. Document Health.
I'm gonna have to get this one because I currently use an extension kind of similar, except it's for the Solution Explorer where it underlines files that have warnings and errors and stuff, which I like. So I feel like this would be a nice pair to go with that one. I wish I could remember the name of it. Do you know what I'm talking about extension wise?
Yeah, the solution error visualizer, part of the productivity power tools.
Yeah. Yep. The
Yeah,
good
that one
stuff.
is with the tool. It shows it to you in the underlines the file in Solution Explorer. But then now when you open the file,
Mhm.
you'll wanna maybe get that real estate back down at the scroll bar at the bottom, and you get that visual indicator in that file itself too. So yeah, they're probably gonna be good companions. Use them
Excellent.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was what I
I
brought
love it when
today.
extensions play together.
Mhm.
Well, you brought some good stuff. So thanks for I'm probably gonna have to download most of these after this talk is over. I already started bookmarking some as we were chatting. So
Mhm.
yeah. But I think we're gonna post all the extensions you talked about in the description probably after the fact. So if you're watching this, viewers, go check out all these extensions.
And,
Yeah.
maybe next time I'll bring more because I got a lot more. I literally had to go through and figure out, okay, what to show you. I have, so many I could not just mine. There's extensions written by a lot of good people out there with, hundreds of thousands of installs, right? So it's like, if you're not using extensions today, if you don't know what's out on the marketplace, please go check it out. You'll be surprised. You'll be absolutely flabbergasted by the
There's a
amount
lot.
of extensions that will 100% have something for your workflow to make your life easier and make you happier. Guaranteed.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, like, one of the things I think, if you wanna know some behind the scenes information at Visual Studio, whenever we talk about doing a new Visual Studio version, one of the first things that's on the discussion table is how do we migrate those most popular extensions? Because for a lot of people, not having those extensions means they're not gonna use Visual Studio a lot of the time. Like, those are, like, integral to their
Yep.
development work environment that and yeah, I get it. There's some really powerful, impactful extensions out there, so
Yeah, they really are.
well, Mads, thanks again for coming on the show and talking about some cool extensions. I look forward to when you're inevitably back to talk about more, either in the extensions category or in the VS category.
I'm looking forward to that too. I'm always happy to talk Visual Studio and extensions. So, anytime, anytime.
And once again, to everyone else, thanks for watching. Please check out all the extensions that we were talking about today. And until next time, happy coding, y'all.